Welcome back to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, my fellow co-host, somebody who doesn't make promises he can't keep, Jason Johnson.
So about that, I have something I want to tell you, but I can't tell you. So you just have to trust me,
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of that going around. Yeah, so
because that makes for a great podcast when I can't talk to you about something. So anyway,
yeah, so much for the audio podcast. Good night, everybody. So on tonight's fine podcast here, we continue through our final season of Farscape with season 4, episode 5, Promises. And then we'll conclude discussing the last half of season 1 of Star Wars, The Acolyte, which would be episodes 5 through 8.
hopefully it's season 1 of multiple, but we'll get there.
We'll go into our thoughts and things, and hopes and dreams for the future here in a little bit.
Let's not oversell it.
I mean, hey, come on, folks. Yeah. That's why you're here, right? Anyway. And as always, our little public service announcement here. If you like what we do, please give us a like or review, or better yet, help spread the word and to all your friends about us. We appreciate it.
Yep, like and subscribe. Click the buttons.
That's right. We're on all the things. Find us on all the places.
Wherever fine podcasts are sold, isn't that usually the line that I hear everybody say? So
And best of all, it's free. So,
that's right.
all right. So let's jump into Farscape, Season 4, Episode 5. I almost want to say Season 5, Episode 4, but that's.
Boy, that would be a surprise.
Yeah, hey, there's 5 seasons.
The lost season.
And the episode is called Promises, which I think they're going to name drop the title quite a lot in this episode. All right. With Dargo's ship still towing John's module for the last couple episodes now.
Feels like seasons.
Yeah. Rigel keeps wondering how much longer. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? They have yet to spot Moya. But Dargo soon sees her in the distance, and everybody is happy to see her again after months away. Moya looks beautiful, Dargo tells Pilot, and Pilot says that they're eager to have the crew back. John asks if they're all okay. We are well, Pilot replies. But when questioned on where they have been, Pilot says, well, they stopped at Arnisk and then searched for the crew at the burial ground. And John's like, oh, hang on a second, back up. Moya was sucked down a wormhole and spat out somewhere. What happened in the middle of that? My memory is unclear, Pilot says. We were not harmed, merely examined. Huh? He says he does not know who by, and he remembers nothing else of importance.
So they were probed.
Yeah. Probe down a wormhole, I don't know. Their auntie finds this odd since Pilot told her he remembered. Something's very wrong, she says. Gianna wonders if it's a trap, but John and Dargo say the only way to find out for sure is, of course, to walk right into it.
That's the Farscape way.
Yep. The best way to spring a trap is walk blindly right into it. So John steps off the ship first and sees a shadowy figure in the distance. It steps into the light. It's Aeryn! Yay, she's back
Yay!
finally! Woo! After 5 episodes, she's back. You've come back, John says, but she's visibly upset. Everything's gonna be alright, John says, as she walks towards him, and as they go to hug, instead she falls down to the floor and says she's got heat delirium. Again. But you have to promise me something, Aeryn insists. You have to promise that you will not kill him. Won't kill who? John says. Aeryn says, he found me, he saved my life. Who saved your life? John asks. I did, and out steps Scorpius.
Dun dun dun.
Da-da-da. John, of course, aims his gun at him, saying Scorpius is dead. He saw him buried. Scorpius says that he's put Aeryn in his coolant suit to stabilize her fever and tells Aeryn that she must return to the coolant room to resume her full treatment. John calls out for Dargo, but Aeryn insists no, he's not a threat. The others, surprised at both Aeryn and Scorpius being on board, come out with weapons ready, of course. Aeryn climbs to her feet, stands between them and Scorpius, and says, I gave them my word he would not be harmed. Put your weapons down, she insists, adding that she'll leave Moya if they don't do what she says. Tiana asks what he wants, and Aeryn says he wants asylum.
Which would also have been a good episode title.
Yeah. John can't believe it, but Scorpius wants him to allow Aeryn to return to the chamber, and then they can talk. Tiana goes to help Aeryn, who forces John to promise, name title, that he will not harm Scorpius. John and Dargo move around Scorpius cautiously. John asks, what did you do to her? He says, I saved her. She was alone and wounded, adrift in the Prowler, in an early stage of heat delirium. Dargo says, how'd you find her? And Scorpius says, I was looking for all of you. John tells Scorpius he'll never get the wormhole tech from him over my dead body. But Scorpius reminds him that he couldn't even use it if he had it. I really want to safeguard it, he says, and hope that when the inevitable scare and bloodbath begins, you make the appropriate choices. Dargo, of course, does not believe any of that, and John wonders what it will take to keep Scorpius in his grave. Dargo suggests that they cut off his head since that seemed to work well for Durka, and then we pop into John's mind for a quick second where Harvey tries to convince him to kill Scorpius now, originally saying Scorpius's plan was survival, but then now it's to steal what's in John's head. We cut to Rigel, who's prepared Scorpius's room on Moya, including smashing several of his coolant rods on the floor. Like, oops. John, however, stops him since Aeryn needs those too, and John ensures that there are DRDs watching Scorpius at all times, and they leave him locked up in the room.
Yeah, because that won't be a problem.
Yeah, because he'll never escape from that. Meanwhile, Sakozu enters the command deck and tells Pilot that the consoles need repairs. Pilot's surprised he's talked to in such a way, especially because he has no idea who Sakozu is.
Fair.
And you are? She briefly introduces herself and tells him that command functions are the top priority and orders him to send DRDs immediately to fix them. Tiana comes in and overhears and tells Pilot ignore her and isn't too surprised to see she's been less than an Arn here and already starting to take over. Well, someone's got to, Sakozu tells her, but Tiana says that someone is not her and reminds her that she's just cargo, baggage, and they haven't forgotten that she was in the grave with Scorpius. She pins Sakozu up against the wall and asks if she's working for Scorpius and it's anything to do with him surviving, being buried, or finding Moya. Meanwhile, John's blaming himself for the whole situation, imagining Scorpius torturing Aeryn for information. He and Dargo go to this coolant chamber to visit Aeryn. She's on a bed, in full Scorpius-style coolant suit, helmet and all.
That was kind of creepy.
Yeah, even little chin strappy things, which is kind of weird, but okay. As John approaches her, she tells him, I'm really sorry for what he says, for everything. This is not how she pictured coming back. When John asks how she caught the heat delirium, she says that she can't talk about it. I really want to tell you, but I can't, and we have to leave it at that.
Hmm.
John notices it's cold, that's because it's called the coolant chamber, and asks how they found this room. Scorpius did, she says. John asks if it was Scorpius who gave her the flu too, but Aeryn is adamant, no, he didn't, and I want you to believe that. Well, you make that very difficult, replies John. Suddenly, Pilot announces a massive ship is approaching fast, and they can't starburst away because of its great mass being too close to them. A loud noise comes over the comms, and a man calling himself Ulam addresses the ship, all her crew, including the assassin, Aeryn Soon. He claims he introduced her heat delirium, and only he can save her. He says that he'll give them the antidote as soon as Aeryn gives them the names of her employers and fellow assassins. Of course, Aeryn says she can't tell John anything, as she gave her word, or a promise, but again says that Scorpius was not involved. He took advantage of a situation.
That doesn't sound like Scorpius.
Yeah, what? Really? John asks if she's an assassin, but she doesn't say anything. John tells her he needs something and asks if she believes he has the only cure, to which she nods. John asks what he's supposed to say to him. If you love me, you'll say nothing. John, however, has a plan and tells Rigel. Rigel will talk to Ulam into letting him and Dargo board the ship under a pretense of truce, and then turn it around on him. Rigel says that if he had half an hour with Aeryn, he could get the names, but he'll do it their way first. We cut to the command carrier, where a peacekeeper, Panara, shows Braca a missile that, when it impacts the Leviathan, will destroy its biologics, killing the Leviathan but not affecting the people aboard. She wants a prowler to carry this torpedo, although the pilot, Rinlo, says a missile this big belongs on a marauder. She says the marauder would be detected quickly, only a prowler could fly close enough to get a lock on. Rinlo is adamant that the prowler couldn't fly steady enough, but she says a skilled pilot could. Braca tells them to run more simulations, and on his way out, Greza calls him over. What sort of leadership is that? She asks. He says that this is an unproven weapon, it needs studies. I don't want studies, Captain, I want John Crichton. Back on Moya, John and Dargo take a transport to Ulam's ship, unarmed. Ulam is holding the antidote, and Dargo tries to tongue him, but it's just a hologram. He reappears and doesn't care what they want. He wants the names of those who worked with Aeryn. And that's it. They say they don't know, so Ulam asks if they played a part in her monstrous act.
Oh no.
Oh no, what did she do? Well, he tells us that apparently Aeryn and two others invaded his homeworld, shot their way into the governing chambers, and assassinated their prime Lukithian. I guess it's prime minister or president, I don't know, whatever. And you know for a fact that was her, John asks? Ulam says they managed to dose all the killers with a contagion that induces heat delirium before they escaped. Her illness should be all the obvious proof you need. Gianna checks Aeryn's coolant rod and thinks it should be blue. Scorpius tells her over the comm to put it back and change it.
Though that's confusing.
Yeah, what? Stop messing with it, but change it while you're there.
Touch it, but don't touch it.
And our ever helpful Ranty offers something to help Aeryn sleep deeply, and Chan leaves to get a new coolant rod. As Naranti goes to give her that substance, Aeryn suddenly knocks it up in her face, causing her to instead fall to the floor unconscious. Finally, somebody's
Really.
not putting up with this.
And we peacefully don't have to put up with Durante the rest of the episode.
That's just true. So some good stuff. Aeryn gets up, throws the coolant helmet on the floor, and goes to command, where she abruptly throws Sakozu out. Again, about that. Back on the other ship, Ulam tells John he might want to tell Aeryn that if she cooperated, he'd have no reason to hunt the other assassins down. Aeryn appears on the screen, though, and says that threatening her friends won't help him, so send them back home and let Moya go. I'm breaking this stalemate, she says, and puts a pulse pistol to her head. Goodbye, John, she says, as the others scream to get help. Fortunately, Rigel to the rescue. Rigel headbutts her from behind, knocking her to the floor.
Go Rigel.
Yeah. Ulam tells John that after a suicide attempt, he's been too patient. He could have just had his soldiers aboard Moya at any moment. Well, go ahead, bring him on, John says. Aeryn will never be taken alive, and I need her more than you do, he says. So back off, and we'll get you your names. Back on Moya, Sakozu visits Scorpius and surprisingly speaks in a Leviathan dialect, switching off the guard DRDs. He asks what else can she speak? Scaring, perhaps? And they speak in Scaring for a little bit. Sakozu asks why he saved her life on Arnisk. Your death would serve no purpose, but your life might still, Scorpius says. She says, well, that hasn't worked thus far, and now she's blamed for Scorpius being here. How'd you survive? She asks. Foresight and preparation, he says. And again reiterates he's here to safeguard John, among other things. John goes to Aeryn, who tells him not to be upset. Yeah, death is nothing to fear. Then John hallucinates a scorpified Aeryn asking, why won't you allow her to die? Soon enough, you'll wish you had. John tells her they'll get the antidote, but Aeryn Scorpius says he's still in denial and asks why he won't just let her go. The real Aeryn, meanwhile, says he has no right to do this. Ulam just wants her. But not as much as I do, John replies. She says she made promises,
Aha.
and asks if that means anything to him. John asks, well, if life means anything to her, and asks when she became an assassin. When I found a cause that required it, she says. She still won't tell anything, other than she thinks it was worth dying for. On the command carrier, Recon has found a Leviathan they think is Moya. Greza asks Bracca for recommendations, and he says that he will fly a Prowler with the missile. When the pilot questions him, Bracca says it's obvious he's convinced the mission will fail, so he will replace him instead, dismissing him. And impressed, Greza offers a good hunting captain as Bracca leaves. Back on Moya in John's head, Harvey tells John that he has to stay away from Scorpius, but John goes anyway. He finds Sakozu with him and accuses her of being on Scorpius' team all along. Running theme. She has in fact helped Scorpius concoct a device that will take the neural clone out of John's head. Scorpius says that he can help him. Simply clear your mind and I will. A very doubtful John continues pointing his gun at Scorpius, who reminds him that he saved Aeryn's life while the clone killed her. Okay, good point. A wary Harvey, however, tries to convince John otherwise and says, I'll just get back in that dumpster. Remember that from a long time ago? Let's go back there. That's not good enough, John says. He tells Harvey that this is a private place. He does not belong here anymore. But I've been your ally, John, and your friend, he says. Nope, time for you to go, John says. He shakily hands over his gun to Sakozu, worried that Harvey might cause him to break his promise to Aeryn by making him shoot Scorpius. Meanwhile, Harvey tries one last time. Your mind is all chocolate and ice cream and perfume and girls, and asks how he could take all this from him. You're not real, John says. I'm real to you, to myself, Harvey replies. But John insists he must come sit in the chair. Harvey does so and says, well, goodbye, John. I will miss you. Suddenly, Scorpius stabs the device in John's neck. Harvey's final words are, without hesitation. And he's gone.
No.
Harvey! After a few seconds recovering, a relieved and much pleased John confirms Harvey has indeed gone. Alas, poor Harvey.
Right. Does that count as being down another crew member?
Yeah, well, I guess he's in the credits just as Scorpius. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Then John asks what Scorpius can further offer. What can you do for me now? He tells John that in less than 3 arms, a Prowler will fire a missile, killing Moya and everyone on her. Well, that's not quite true, but okay. If you don't trust me now, we're all as good as dead. Scorpius tells John that once locked on, this type of missile can follow even through starburst. Ooh. John won't leave, though, without a cure for Aeryn, and Sikozu has a theory about the other ship. The master readings lead her to believe it's a chameleon, a projection, that probably only has a very tiny crew of maybe 4 or 5 at most on it. John loves those odds. Scorpius volunteers to go, but John refuses, and not to argue, but says Sikozu instead is coming with them. We may need a nerd. Scorpius says they now have less than 2 Arns before the Prowler's in range. How'd you learn that? John asks. I have a spy aboard the command carrier. A not surprised John tells Sikozu that that's why he has such a problem trusting people. So John, Dargo, Sikozu, and Aeryn go over to Ulam's ship. John tells Ulam that Aeryn will talk, but her condition's worsening. She has to have the antidote now. Meanwhile, Braca is well on his way with the missile. So they get Ulam to inject Aeryn with the antidote. John and Dargo then turn on Ulam's men and knock the real ones out. Ulam, though, is still a hologram and seals the room from outside. Aeryn begins to recover, and she tells Ulam to come out and face her, lest he's a coward. He says, well, he faced her once before, but she shot him and left him for dead. He killed so many that day, he adds. She tells him that his leader had slaughtered more in one day than she could in a whole lifetime. So she would do it again and again for free. I wasn't hired to kill him, she says. The Ulam steps out from a chamber and shoots at her, but, surprise, she's protected by that Tarkin shield belt that John got last episode. So that may return real quick
Yep.
before you forgot about it. John returns fire at Ulam's life support system and takes a direct hit. Sikozu grabs his control orb, and John tells her to run the ship with it. Pilot tells everybody that they're too late to get back before the missile is fired. Sikozu gets the hatch open. Dargo takes Aeryn back to the pod, while Sikozu and Scorpius tell John the missile locks onto Moya's pulse. Pilot says he can shut down Moya's pulse, but only through a full biological shutdown, which Moya can only survive for 800 microns. John tells Sikozu to create a decoy with the ship's chameleon abilities, and although she doesn't think she can, she'll give it a shot. Braca comes into range with the missile. Ulam tells John that he's finished what Aeryn began. Sikozu gets the decoy working just as Braca begins his scan. Moya gets shut down, and Braca reads 2 Leviathans. They're kind of fooled by the decoy, thinking that the dead Moya is the decoy. Braca then fires the missile at the live one, which is actually the real decoy. A little bit later, Pilot manages to get Moya resuscitated, much to everybody's happiness. They starburst away just as the other ship is destroyed by the missile. Braca reports that the dead Leviathan was moving, and relieves the peacekeeper that mistook the target of her duties. Graza takes over and tells her to report to the Aurora Chamber. Just take a seat, she says. I'll be with you shortly. John actually congratulates Scorpius on making it through the day, but he has 2 questions. Did you do anything at all to Aeryn? No, I've not harmed her in any way, he says. 2. On the carrier, you said you knew where Earth was. Is that true? I do, he says. Anyone else? Scorpius says no. He purged all the records. The knowledge only exists in his head. You can use it to get home, Scorpius says. Or you can safely eradicate it by killing me. Again, the choice is yours. Chiana, meanwhile, tells Pilot it's great to see him and Moya again. It almost feels like coming home. Pilot is equally happy to see everybody, with the exception of Sikozu. I now miss Jewel more than ever, he says.
Oh yeah, remember Jewel?
Yeah, remember her? Chiana tells Pilot that if Sikozu ever speaks to him like that again, gives him any lip, he can drop her in the bat dren. Nobody should tell you what to do, Chiana says. But yet, everybody does, Pilot replies. Good point. He says that they can't serve so many masters at once. If we have one request, it's to ask you to choose one spokesperson, he says. A single voice for us to follow. Chiana says she'll tell the others, and they'll take a vote or something. And finally, John's on the command deck, thinking over recent events, as a fully recovered Aeryn joins him. Hi, she says. I'd like to stay. John says he's sure Moya would be happy to hear that. She says he also wants to help him keep an eye on Scorpius. Good point. I want to be here, she says again. John asks if she has any other secrets, and she shakes her head no. Awkwardly, he says, so you could tell me if you're pregnant? Her face changes, and she stays silent. Disappointed, he leaves her alone on the command deck. Alright, some trivia about this episode. A new puppet was created for Pilot's appearance in this episode. Claudia Black's Scorpius costume was specifically designed for her, except with foam earpieces rather than plastic ones Wayne Pygram used. After she had her life cast made to create the mask, Dave Elsie told her that she was the only person ever who smiled throughout the process. The slug gun that was used for Aeryn's cure was created by the Elsie and his team at the Jim Henson Creature Shop when an injection mechanism was required that did not look like a syringe. Elsie enjoyed the challenge of creating something part biological and part mechanical. And the Reservoir Dogs inspired scenes between John and Harvey were filmed in the corridors between the stages of the Farscape studios. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
And Brekka's line when he fired the missile, "Here's your rematch, Crichton," refers to Lyra's guns and money when Crichton punched out Brekka. Of course, if he couldn't hear you say that, then it's really a cool line. Anyway, but
It's always cool in your head.
yeah, it always sounds great when you say it to yourself. All right, so we finally have the whole band back together and plus one, which I think you called that several episodes ago that Scorpy might join the crew. So, what'd you think of this episode?
I really enjoyed it. Lots of crew dynamics, new info, some plot mechanizations on the part of the peacekeepers. As we kind of indicated during the recap, I lament the loss of Harvey. I get it, but it's still he's been a fun character to have jump around. I mean, the things like the Reservoir Dogs scene and all the other cool things that we get from him are kind of cool. So I'm gonna miss that. And as expected, they didn't resolve the Crichton Aeryn drama just yet. But it's her first episode back, so that was kind of expected. So, how about you?
Yeah, she was a little busy with a heat delirium. Yeah, so,
Right?
but yeah, I agree. I liked it, and yeah, there's lots of stuff going on. Lots of character development and intrigue, and which that's how you build viewers and plot, and the next couple episodes. So, and yeah, we got rid of Harvey, which we'll probably talk about here in a minute. But hey, now you got the main man himself. So I guess you're looking to have dueling Scorpies together. Although that really could have been fun for an episode or two to have like the real Scorpius next to you, and then you thinking about with Harvey about Scorpius. That could have been kind of fun. But
A
oh
lot of
well.
work on the actor, though, right? I mean, that's probably the
Yeah. So I guess everybody have some pizza and pour out some margarita shooters for our good buddy Harvey there. So, but we got some more mysteries to solve here, or to find out about Moya and Pilot and Scorpius, and I guess even some of Aeryn's time away. Although I guess some of it was mostly explained here, but you know, some more little things to figure out. So yeah, overall, yeah, another great episode of Farscape.
yeah, true. There's a lot of revelations still remaining that'll probably get us through the rest of the season as we go along.
Got to keep it interesting, and that's how things work nowadays. It's all sequential stories, and stuff happens, and you don't. It's not just an episode happens and they don't talk about it ever again. But before we kind of jump into the details here, just being kind of funny, like so now Pilot wants him to have only one person giving him orders after 3 Arns. Or is him and Moya finally that fed up with them all?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm not sure where that'll lead, but it'll be a different dynamic for the crew for sure, right? If they've had to pick a captain to be the one person giving the orders to Pilot, that would bestow some form of rank, right?
Yeah, which I'm sure they'll just go smoothly and not a problem, and they'll just first vote, they'll get it all done. Not great.
Right?
So yeah, speaking of Pilot and Moya, so right off the bat, first minute or two of the episode, they would find Moya and ask what happened after they were sucked down a wormhole, and Pilot just kind of nonchalantly says they were examined by something or somebody, and doesn't remember anything else. What? And Renty says, well, no, he told her he did remember. So what's Pilot hiding? Are our friendly Leviathan creators back from the bad half episode of the 2.5 episode Look at the Princess trilogy? Or are the ancients back, perhaps? Being
that
wormhole people and stuff. So,
that'd be kind of fun. Can we bring Jack back? I know he died, right? So probably
yeah.
not. But that did make me think. There's an interesting comment, if I'm remembering right, by Sikozu, who says something about a false pilot or something like that when she's talking to Scorpius and explaining the crew. So I wonder if that'll be related to whatever he's hiding, Pilot is hiding, or maybe that was just a Sikozu one-off and I misunderstood it.
Maybe Pilot was twinned. No.
There you go. There's 2 pilots out there now.
Pilot and Moya were twinned. Wait a minute. Yeah, that'd be too crazy. Although it's Farscape, so
Yeah,
that would fit.
there's
That
no
would fit
such
right in.
thing.
So then we dock, and John, is thrilled to see Aeryn. He rushes towards her, and she's so excited to see him, she claps his no, and says she's got heat delirium again. But the person that found her and saved her is none other than Scorpius, and here he is. He's like, he's helped Aeryn. He wants asylum from the peacekeepers. So it kind of gets our first mystery here. What happened to Aeryn? And how did Scorpius dig himself out of that grave? How did he get off planet? And how did he find Aaron's prowler of all the things to find in the whole universe here? So questions, questions, questions.
Yep, like we said, lots to find out as we go forward throughout the season. Obviously we can't trust Scorpy, but I guess that will be another thread to watch as we move forward, right? They'll start pulling that one out and seeing what everybody thinks.
But he's just here to help Crichton, among other things.
To protect Crichton,
Yeah, yeah, among air quotes other things. Yeah,
right?
like what his sudden and inevitable betrayal.
Yeah, curse it.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess Scorpius is now the Leviathan expert because he finds this coolant chamber on Moya. Guessing Pilot or Moya didn't know about that. That would have been really great place to put Aeryn before when she had heat delirium, which for keeping score at home was all the way back in season 1, episode 3, Exodus from Genesis. But hey, plot, new writers, whatever. Or kind of fun thing, maybe Moya grows new rooms as she ages, or in response to past events. Hey, you never know when you might need a coolant room if you have heat delirium again. So here you go, got a room for you.
Well, or John needed a place to keep his ice cream or something. And they need a refrigerator.
Yeah, Zan's gone. Now you got this Narati woman with all these weird concoctions and things, and she wants a freezer. So
Right. Yeah. As you do, you got to keep the ice cream somewhere. As Harvey said, there's
yeah.
got a lot of chocolate ice cream. So
So then we kind of get one mystery solved. The person that gave Aeryn the heat delirium shows up, demanding her names of her employers and other ex-peacekeeper assassin. Aeryn won't tell him a single thing, or John or anybody else, or even hint at what happened, as she gave her word or her promise. And for whatever reason, goes so far as to try to kill herself and her baby. So, fortunately, Rigel to the rescue there. But I don't know, maybe give your companions that you've been, working with and living and dying with for the last 3 yarns the benefit of the doubt first before you jump to suicide. I don't know.
yeah, that did seem pretty on brand for Aeryn, though, right? I mean, peacekeeper and all. She's always willing to sacrifice herself, but not everybody else. I do hope we get some more detail on who she was working with, etc. I know we get some here, but there's still a lot of like stuff that I think would be cool to find out as we go forward.
Yeah, because she dropped back in the end of last season that she's going to go out with and find some ex peacekeepers and do things. I'm like, really, this is what you do? Like, but yeah, so there's some more stuff in there that they could explore if they wanted to. Yeah,
Yeah, it was really a backdoor pilot for Aeryn the assassin to have her own show, but they talked her into coming back. So
yeah, well, that's where she was for 5 stories. She was filming her own, filming her own pilot for the. And we have a little catch up with Grayza and Braca. They got some new little missile here that can kill Leviathan but leave the crew intact. So it's
yeah,
kind of cool.
those crazy kids.
Yeah, you got your little toys. Kind of like a reverse neutron bomb, I guess. Instead of killing the people and leaving the buildings, you kill the building and leave the people. I don't know. Their expert pilot doesn't think a pilot can deliver it. I guess Gracie didn't like Braca's kind of soft touch there with the pilot, but apparently loves it when he decides to pilot the pilot himself. I don't know. I guess she wants strong, opinionated people under her. Because I mean, even at the end, when Braca blows it and they shoot the wrong ship, he's off the hook, and they blame the officer that gave him the wrong reading, and she's off to spend some quality time in the Aurora chair. So just like upper management, you always blame the rank and file.
Yeah, you'd think they'd eventually run out of other peacekeepers, right? They keep Aurora chairing them or jetting them or whatever. One interesting thing from that plot though is Scorpius mentions having a spy, and my theory is that that's the pilot who didn't want to fly the ship. So anyway, we'll see if that pans out. But that's my crazy theory is I think it's that pilot guy.
Yeah, could be, because hopefully it's not the tech there that's going off to be interrogated. So
If not, they'll know really quick when they Aurora chair, right?
yeah, at least from normal folk there, they tend to break really easily. Yeah, so maybe we'll see that again. I don't know. It's been a while. But yeah, I guess as we talked about, I guess the most surprising thing this episode for me and probably for you is that Harvey's gone. Apparently, seemed pretty final. But I don't know. It kind of seemed like while it was fun and interesting, it kind of seemed like it was kind of rushed or kind of out of place. Like why kind of do that like now? And then also Sakozu says she helped Scorpius build this device in what, like 10 minutes? Like I don't know. I'm kind of confused. And yeah, it could have been fun to have Harvey and Scorpy around for an episode or two, but I guess you got the original guy, so no need to have the cheap copy.
Yeah, you have a point there, I guess, but yeah, like we've obviously indicated, I'm going to miss Harvey. And especially the one thing they can't do with the real Scorpy, right, is all the pop culture scenes that we got to see inside John's head.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see what they do going forward, but I'll miss those Earth references.
yeah, 'cause that was half the fun. Is like in the middle of a serious thing or whatever, suddenly you're in John's head, like on a beach with Harvey in a Hawaiian shirt, running around. It's just like what? So
Yeah, or some animation. You just never know.
yeah, I mean, best episode ever. Anyway,
Right, exactly.
so, yeah.
I don't know
Anyway,
the Ancients one with oh, what was the name of Dargo's character? Yeah, yeah,
Gary Regal.
Gary Regal. I never can remember that, but that's the other one that I think could give that a run for its money. But anyway, moving
Yeah,
on.
far out, dude. But yeah, no, I love Al. Yeah, that one. Ah, the old days. Anyway, and yeah, we got another wonderful plan from our crew here to get the antidote for Aeryn. Take her over there and draw him out to kill her. But hey, remember that shield belt thing we got last time? Hey, let's use that. So I wasn't expecting that to come up so soon, but I guess probably a good idea too before the audience forgets about it and the next writer forgets about it. And I guess, as always, your plan doesn't quite go 100%, so that they can't get back to Moya in time to get away. So they come up with a plan to make this ship look like a Leviathan and somehow, like, temporarily, basically kill Moya to make her appear dead, and which I guess she was, no pulse, right? So, and then you get that little drama moment where pilot's trying to resuscitate her, and of course she does, because otherwise, end of series. So, and so yeah, nice little Farscape plan.
Yeah, well, once you have a new toy, you have to try it out the first chance you get. It's kind of like when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So, got to break out the good stuff when you can.
Yeah, got a lot of nice toys this episode. We got this missile that can go through starburst, dimensions or tele whatever it is, and the ship with a, this chameleon type thing and your little shield belt. So yeah, got all the toys. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I had to nitpick, I guess I will nitpick a little bit right here. My only complaint about this whole thing was the hologram or chameleon or whatever it was that let the Ulram's ship. I keep wanting to say Utrom, like from Ninja Turtles, but anyway, the Ulram's ship looked like it was a really big, right? Because then they figure out it's not that big. It only had a couple people on it. Wouldn't they have been able to tell it didn't have enough mass and they could have starbursted anyway? I mean, I know they needed the antidote by that point, but it was like, I don't know. I expected Pilot to know, hey, I can starburst because it's not really there.
Yeah, I caught that too. I'm like, wait a minute. Unless somehow just because they thought it had too much mass, they didn't try to starburst. I don't know, but that's the only way I could explain it. But yeah, it's like, hey, wait a minute. But again, plot. So.
Yeah, plot. And like I said, they needed an antidote, so that was
Hmm.
kind of the trick there.
Yeah, because then you have Aaron stuck in a coolant suit for the next couple episodes, and
That's it. From now on, she has to wear the Scorpius suit.
well, they went all the trouble to build it and to create it and fit it to her, and oh well, never mind. And yeah, speaking of Aaron, so at the end of the episode, she still hasn't told John that she's pregnant. Although now I guess she probably knows this because why would John say that? But so again, we string this out, but then again, of course, to your point, she just got back and she's kind of busy, dying from heat delirium. So let's not go into the whole pregnancy thing right now. So, so hopefully they talk about this next episode and don't string it along like they did a couple of seasons ago when Stark was like, "Hey, Dargo, I found your son. That's great. Let's go get him." Like half a season later, they went and so it's like, okay, let's get this out in the open here pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't expect them to resolve it that quickly, but I am looking forward to them getting it behind us. The I feel like the clone John, or whatever, twin John, Aeryn drama has been played out to the point that I'm ready for that to be kind of a past plot point. We can go to something new, but we'll see. We'll see how long it takes them to resolve and work things out.
All right. Anything else that we didn't cover you want to talk about?
Nothing jumps out at me. I am really interested, probably as we talked about way back in the beginning of this episode, the missing time for Pilot. Right, that's probably the biggest plot point that I'm really curious about, and I'm sure they'll, as much as they kind of mentioned it, they're setting that up for things to come. But looking forward to that piece.
Yeah, maybe once when Old Laurenti wakes up there, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, remember? Hey pilot, what's?"
You're right.
So, speaking next time, so on the next podcast we'll do season 4, episode 6, natural election. So playing our usual guessing game of what does that mean. Well, once again, good job, Farscape. I don't know. Uh, it does sound like a play on natural selection, but not really sure what that would be either. So I'm just going to fall back to a pilot said he wanted them to choose one voice to speak to them. So an election for Captain of Moya, I'm guessing, or or hopefully maybe we find out more about who or what examined pilot in Moya, since that seems to be a whole thing people are hanging giant lanterns on throughout this episode. So hopefully they don't drag that up longer either. So, but that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to agree and go with the captain decision based on the election part. Right? It'll probably be an epic argument, kind of an off the wall way to reach the decision. You know, because it's our Farscape crew and they've got to do some kind of crazy mechanism. I mean, they're not just going to rock paper scissors for it. There's got to be something epic, right? And maybe it'll involve some crackers.
Yeah, nah, they don't matter.
Nah, you're probably right.
Although, hey, Moya is like organic, because she's all natural, so natural election. I don't know. Who knows? I'm sure they'll name drop that in the next episode title.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That just flows off the tongue like promises. Like, I'm just having a natural election.
Naturally.
Naturally. All right, so that is your homework for next time. And here in a little bit, we will jump into the last half of season 1, possibly the only season of Star Wars: The Acolyte, season 1, episodes 5 through 8. All right. I guess you want to go first, and then we'll alternate, I guess.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
You good to go?
Yep, go for it.
All right, so let's get started with episode 5, Night. The mysterious warrior kills all the Jedi except for Yord, Jeki, and Sol, because those are our main characters. But anyway, Sol for now. Sol saves Osha from the warrior and demands that he reveal his identity. The warrior claims that they have already met and then vanishes into the forest. Jeki captures May, but the mysterious warrior arrives to kill May for trying to betray him. Jeki breaks the warrior's mask before she is killed, revealing him to be Khmer. Sol arrives and questions Khmer, who says the Jedi might call him Sith, and now he intends to kill them all to keep his existence a secret. Yord ambushes Khmer, but is quickly killed. Sol fights and overpowers Khmer, but is stopped from killing him by Osha, who plants a light on Khmer that causes a colony of Umbra moths to attack and carry him away. May uses Osha's stun gun on Sol so she can speak with Osha, but they end up arguing about each other's choices, and May uses the Force to knock Osha unconscious. May steals Osha's clothes and poses as her sister, returning with Sol to the Jedi ship. They're followed by a suspicious Brazzle. Khmer frees himself from the Umbra moths and finds Osha lying unconscious in the forest.
Yeah, and then we have episode 6, Teach/Corrupt. So back to our dual episode names, except that's it. No more of that. Khmer takes Osha to an unknown planet where he dresses her wounds. He claims to be a former Jedi who was betrayed by his master, drawing parallels to Osha's past. Osha is wary of him, but eventually agrees to try on his helmet, which is made from the lightsaber blocking metal cortosis. On the Jedi ship back at Kofar, interference disrupts Salt's attempt to contact the Jedi Council, but a partial message about him losing his whole team makes it to Coruscant. Saul asks May to help fix the ship's power, still believing her to be Osha, and she's attacked by Basil. May overpowers him and resets the power. She tries to get Saul to tell her the truth about what happened on Brindok, but her wording reveals to him that she is not Osha. When the ship's power gets restored, Saul stuns May and leaves her just as Vernestra and a small band of Jedi arrive to investigate his message. That was quick. They find the massacre and suspect a fallen Jedi is responsible when the Jedi Mog suggests that only Saul would be powerful enough to kill so many. When May wakes up, Saul says that he will finally tell her the truth about what happened on Brindok.
And then episode 7, Choice. 16 years earlier, so a flashback, The four Jedi discovered the Coven while investigating a potential vergence in the Force on Brendok, which could create life. The Jedi Council decides that the twins are too old and should be left with the Coven, despite Osha's wish to become a Jedi. Coral stokes May's anger over the Osha decision, leading to May accidentally starting the fire. The results for the twins' M count arrive, which show their Force sensitivity, indicate that they were artificially created, with a single consciousness split into two bodies. Torben, eager to return to Coruscant, sees this as proof of the vergence and rushes to retrieve the girls. Saul follows, and the pair confront the Coven before Kalnaka and Indara arrive. Saul kills Anissa when she tries to attempt to use her power. The witches possess Kalnaka and use him to attack Torben and Saul until Indara overpowers them. Saul is unable to save both May and Osha from the burning fortress and chooses to save Osha. As they return to Coruscant, Indara decides to blame the incident on May's fire and not tell the council about Saul's actions so that he can train Osha as his Padawan.
And then we wrap it all up with episode 8, The Acolyte. Hey, name
Name
dropping.
drop.
Saul takes May to Brendok and sends their location to the Jedi. Osha has a vision of May and agrees to lead Kamir to her, and as they leave, a mysterious figure watches them depart. Who could that be? Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Vernestra is told by Senator Rayencourt that the Senate grows weary of Jedi secrets and launches an investigation into the Order. Back in the ruins of the Witch's Fortress, Osha confronts May as Saul and Kamir fight. May disarms Saul but chooses to let him live so he can confess his crimes to the Jedi Council. Saul reveals that May and Osha are the same person, created through a vergence on Brendok, and admits to killing their mother, or one of their mothers, Anastasia. Osha angrily kills Saul using the Force, corrupting the kyber crystal in his lightsaber, which turns from blue to red. She and May escape, though, before Vernestra arrives with a group of Jedi and finds Saul's body while briefly sensing Kamir. The sisters reconcile and Osha agrees to train with Kamir. He uses the Force to wipe May's memory, and Vernestra covers up what happened by stating that Saul killed Torben, Indara, Kanaka, the witches, and then committed suicide afterwards. How
Convenient.
convenient. Kamir is once her apprentice, and she wants the amnesiac May to help find him. And we end the show with Vernestra reporting to Jedi Master Yoda, or what appears to be Yoda. All right, so season 1, and maybe the only season, we'll find out, though so far it's not looking good. So that's in the books here. So what'd you think? Did they bring it home in the last half here? Any high-level likes or dislikes? And if we do actually get a season 2, are you excited for it?
So, I think as we kind of discussed last time, I did really enjoy this show more than I was expecting. With all the negative hype going on around about it didn't have a lot of expectations going into it, even though I avoided spoilers. But yeah, I think there was a lot of good in this. We get a good look at some ancient pre-Sith stuff, maybe. I mean, he calls himself a Sith, so we can go with that. And the Matrix Kung Fu style wirework fighting, I loved that. Like that was probably was one of my favorite Jedi fight scenes we've gotten in a while, since maybe Ray Park, right? So, like you said, I'm worried we won't get a second season due to all the feedback and reviews and stuff like that you're seeing online. But there are still a lot of items that I want to see more of out of the storyline. So I'm hoping they come back to it.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree that, yeah, I liked it, for the most part. Well, a couple little quibbles here we'll get into just because, we can. But yeah, I mean, it had, like, I think, like, yeah, the most amazing lightsaber battles we've ever seen. I mean, and a lot of them enough to, like, satisfy lots of people's desire for lightsaber battles, I think. And, yeah, a pretty interesting take on, like, Jedi versus non-Jedi. I guess you could say Sith, although I guess we're calling Kamira Sith, although he just said the Jedi might call him Sith. He'd actually say, "Hi, I'm a Sith." But so I mean, maybe he considers himself something else. Who knows? I don't know. But then, however, the off-camera confirmation that that creepy alien spying on Kamira and Osha at the end was Darth Plagueis. Okay, fine. That brings up lots more questions, but that kind of does point strongly towards being a Sith, which we'll get into here in a little bit. I guess some of the quibbles, which again we'll talk about, is some of the motivations about some of our characters were kind of problematic or kind of rushed, maybe to fit either the episode account or shove the narrative along to get from point A to point B. But yeah, overall, I liked it. Despite some of those little frustrations. And yeah, I would definitely watch season 2 if there is one. Kind of like most season ones, sometimes it was inconsistent, which hopefully that could be addressed if this next season, as they have grown into the writing and the characters and the concept and the world. So hopefully we'll find out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, right? I mean, how often do shows get everything right on season one and get their formula down? In the days of these online streaming seasons, we kind of are used to one and dones or things not getting picked up as quickly. There's not the commitment, and so we have a lot higher expectation than I think we would, back in the day when shows were just getting started. But really, I think other than The Mandalorian, which set the bar really high, I don't know that any of them completely nailed the season one, right?
Yeah, and especially true nowadays when I only have like 8, 10, maybe if you're lucky 12 or so episodes.
Yeah, very very rarely with the 12. I mean, it's mostly 8, like in this case.
Yeah, and either you have to hit them all, or if you have one or two that aren't so good, that's a good percentage of the whole show.
Right.
Yeah. So, and yeah, as we guessed before, like were they rushed? Did they have only like 6 episodes and like, oh, make it 8? Okay, we'll throw some stuff. I don't know. So who knows? But yeah, let's kind of dive in here. So episode 5, which of course you saw before I did, but anyway, that's just like
You're bitter about that one.
yeah, not that I'm bitter or anything. But yeah, I mean, that was just one. It was just a giant, constant lightsaber battle, one after the other. I mean, I was just loving that whole thing. You get the big conclusion to what happened last in episode 4. You get the big multi-Jedi battle against our lone villain who's holding his own, and yeah, I mean, they keep setting the bar higher and higher for these lightsaber battles. I mean, whether one-on-one, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, or in this case, a group here. I love how his gauntlet and helmet shorted out the lightsabers. And as that was happening, I'm like, wait, is that cortosis metal? Like he didn't say it at the time, but I'm like, hey, I think it's our first live action look at cortosis, if I'm not mistaken. And then, yeah, I guess it's sad that Jackie, a Padawan, held out longer one on one against him than the whole group of Jedi Knights. I don't know. So,
But she had a name, so
yeah, I mean, so I mean, it's kind of even more sad because maybe she could have been a really great Jedi Knight or even a great Master if she had lived, you know. But alas, poor Jackie.
hmm
And my least favorite Jedi, Yord, gets kind of whacked here pretty quick. So okay, although I was kind of pulling for him and Osha to get away, but oh well. And yeah, it was kind of funny that Saul, as you find out later about Saul, Saul had Chimera dead to rights, but Osha stops him. So of all the time for Saul to get a consciousness,
right.
so or a conscience, more on that in a minute, but and not attacking a defenseless foe. Oh well, you had your chance. And
Maybe
then
he
kind
had
of
he
yeah,
had some PTSD about that. So
yeah, maybe yeah, just a little bit. And then kind of at the end, when May switches places with Osha, I knew exactly then how the whole rest of the season was going to go, with regards at least to who would be the Acolyte, because they pretty much would just basically switch roles at that point, and May would want to be with Saul, and Osha would become the Acolyte. So,
are you
but
saying the dark clothes gave it away?
yeah, we just changed clothes. Now suddenly no one can tell who we are. But yeah. So what do you think about that one? Even though you saw it, weeks before I did.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, I did my best not to give you any spoilers.
Yeah,
Um,
and I was correct on my guess that Chimera was the Sith master there,
you,
or well, not master, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll agree with you. Definitely Kurtosis, which was epic. One thing I did want to mention about that while we're on it, I know it really kind of gets explained later and shown off in the final fight. But the fact that that helmet is actually a sensory deprivation helmet, right,
hmm
means that everything he's doing is blind fighting, and that's epic to me. I mean, you've got this guy who basically has handled all these Jedi with no sense of sight or sound. So it's strictly him and the Force. I think there are some of the I was looking for it a little bit in the later, right? Because once they tell us it's a sensory deprivation helmet, when you watch him fight at the last episode, which I know we'll get to, he's not always looking where he's fighting, and I think that's an interesting thing, right? Because he's not using his eyes, so he doesn't have to look. So anyway, I thought that helmet was nicely explained and some cool stuff there. I think we mentioned my last time my favorite character of the new characters we got introduced to was Jackie. So having her killed off was really sad, but you know, it, that definitely triggered kind of a Rogue One feel for me. And at that point, I kind of expected almost everybody to start dying off. So yeah, once they kind of hit that, I'm like, man, nobody's making it out of this show. Like I expect, like they're just gonna kill them all. Like it's just gonna be a planet blowing up or something at the end, and we just don't get any of these characters, which would make it a one and done, right? And then I'll agree with you to kind of wrap that up. I'll agree with the telegraphing the switch. Um, I I kind of saw it, but I didn't really think that was what they were gonna do. And I think it worked out well during the final episode. So we'll get to that as well.
And then in the next episode 6, we have our last double title, Teach/Corrupt, which is aptly named. We get to learn more about Kimira's past. He says he was, in fact, a former Jedi and was betrayed by his master. So, shades of Osha there, like you said. Although he says it was a long time ago. So, it was like kind of like a wink and a nod to the audience, thinking that trying to push off that maybe he's Darth Plagueis. Then he's lived for a while because he's found the secret of immortality. Since he doesn't look all that old, he looks like he's in his, maybe late 20s, early 30s. I don't know. But that's kind of where things start to break down once you later know who his master is, or who his Jedi master was. Which, like, kind of, why didn't Saul know he was then? Because he doesn't seem like he's that old. So how long ago was Kamir a Padawan? Must have been quite a while. So maybe Vernestra is older than she looks. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it must be a while ago because otherwise Saul's been a Padawan and a master, not the master for I don't know what 40 years or so. So it's got to be before that. So
Well, we know that was what 10 years that he was a master looking for an apprentice 10 years ago. So
yeah. So how old is Kamir? And then kind of in our death of other things here, back with Saul, May's got to fix the ship, like acting like Osha would. So she's got this little droid thing. So he's not really happy to help her because he knows it's not her. So she kind of factory resets Pip, I guess. And so now it's hers effectively. So alas, Pip,
yeah,
goodbye.
I was gonna say there's the death of another character.
Yeah. Although he's got some good scenes after that when he's fighting Osha. He squirts stuff in her face. It's kind of funny. But
Yeah, with his red lights because now he's
yeah,
controlled
yeah,
by
that's right. Because it was blue, now he's red. So evil. So yeah, more sense of her and Osha switching lives, basically, changing places. And yeah, she kind of lets a little too much slip. Saul figures it out, stuns her, secures her, and then says, "Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you now what really happened." So yeah, episode 6, kind of like the okay, now slow it down episode after our huge nonstop action fest last episode. Okay, let's bring it down. Let's move the plot along a little bit and give us some more insight into our 3 major characters here, or actually 4 if you want to talk about Saul. But next time we'll get
Uh,
into him. But
I thought you were gonna say Pip, but
yeah, well,
uh,
all Star Wars has to have their cute little droids, and there we go.
yeah, I wonder how many toys for that they're gonna sell. Anyway, I think for me, I'm sticking with my view that the double episode titles, because this was Teach Corrupt, right, as you mentioned, are the what they use when Ocean and May are separated for the entire episode. Because again, they're never in the same place during this whole episode, so you get a two-parter title. You mentioned the age of Khmer, and I think that's one of the mysteries am or was or we'll see, hoping they'll get to in future episodes. Because personally, I'd love it if he's older than you expect, right? I mean, we've got Plagueis sitting out there, so maybe while he is human looking, he's got an extended lifespan through something Plagueis helps him with. So that would be really cool. Like you say, to kind of stretch that out and make it where he's actually like 60 or something. And I'll mention, since we're talking about Khmer here, that you get the scene of the scars on his back when he kind of gets in the bathing pool or whatever. And to me, that was kind of where I suspected that his scars matched the lightsaber whip thing that we find out is actually from his master. I don't know if the scars are, but that's my guess, right? So they have some kind of epic fight there. She thought she killed him using that lightsaber whip.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping if they do season 2, they get more into that because yeah, obviously he's had these tendencies or doesn't want to use the Force the Jedi way, and either gets seduced by dark side or whatever, recruited by Plagueis if it's Plagueis. Yeah, and then does she try and stop him and think he's dead? Because she kind of was surprised when she sensed him. So yeah, again, questions, questions, questions.
Yep.
And then unfortunately, every season has to have an episode that's not very good. And episode 7, in my mind, was one of those. Probably the episode where I shook my head at most everything in this entire episode. So allow me to vomit my disgust at this episode. No. So we finally get a big flashback that explains what happens. Like, okay, great. Let's learn about what really happened on Brandok finally. We learn about the Virgins again, which can apparently create life. Hi, Maynosha. Yeah. But apparently it also brought Brendok back to a viable ecosphere with, plants and animals and water, all that good stuff after something destroyed it. So that's cool. But apparently for some reason, Torben is really, really homesick and wants to do anything to get back to Coruscant like yesterday. I guess you kind of missed that in your psychological training or psychological profile at the Jedi Temple. Okay. They finally analyzed May and OSHA's M count and realized that they were, artificially created, probably from the Virgins. They're one consciousness into two bodies. So again, that's kind of cool. So Torben's like, fantastic. I'm gonna go get him. We can leave. Really? Come on, dude. Is this the first time he's been off Coruscant for like more than like a day? I mean, I mean, come on. And then, yeah, now Saul really, really wants a Padawan, like now. He wasn't so sure before, but now he's changed his mind. And then, he sets his sight on Osha, like, that's the one. I really need to get her away at all costs because she's my Padawan. I'm like, dude, no. Come on. So he and Torben run off to kidnap or take by force May and Osha. I'm like, what are you doing? But anyway, I can go on, but I'll stop for now. So, what do you think so far about Torben and Saul's actions, reactions, sudden mood shift? I don't know, whatever, whatever you want to call
Yeah. So, spoiler alert, I do agree with you on this episode. I'll expand in a minute as we kind of walk through the rest of the episode where a lot of my issues lie. But I do think it could have been more developed somehow. You know, I don't know if it's more time. It should just been a longer episode or a two-part episode where they take two episodes to do it, and make it 9. I don't know. I think we mentioned one of the ones we weren't terribly impressed that was really short earlier. We could have like rolled into something else and made this a two-parter. I don't know. But I will speak about Torben for a minute because, yeah, you know, one of the cool things in this episode, if I'm going to look for a positive, was we get a lot more detail about the scenes we kind of saw really quickly in the last flashback episode,
it. Hmm.
and the Torben possession. Right, it's not just that she's like took his mind, but you actually see him like in a place having a conversation with her and almost being seduced in the sense of being offered what he wants. Right, she offers him to go home, and that's his downfall, and that's where she gets in his head. So I kind of did like that aspect of it. I do agree that when you find out the characters are all kind of they're collecting mineral samples and stuff, and you've got these 4 Jedi, these super peacekeepers, what we think of as the super peacekeepers of the galaxy, out there collecting plant samples. I was really thrown off. I was like, man, this is just like weird, and it kind of took me a minute to get rolling with it. So yeah, I didn't hate it, but I also think they didn't do a good job of developing why in a lot of this episode.
Hmm. Yeah, because now like the last half of my diatribe here on this episode is, yeah, like everyone just makes bad decisions. Like so, Coral, their other mother is still really pissed that the Jedi are here and they're gonna steal the girls, and that just gets May further riled up, and she runs off and sets that fire. Although at least I'll give them that they showed it took longer to get it out of control than the first time, which seemed to take like 10 seconds. But that still doesn't explain how an entire place from a mine that's all rocks caught on fire. I still don't understand how that happens at all. But hey, whatever. And then, for whatever weird reason, when Saul and Anissa or Anisea are talking, she turns into like this black cloud and just is hovering there. And Saul decides, yeah, I'll just shove a lightsaber through that. And then looks shocked as like, oops, she's dead. Like, what do you think was going to happen? I don't know. I don't get the whole sequence. That made no sense to me.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. If you're there to confront a witch and she turns into a black cloud creepy thing, you might stab her too. So, you know,
Maybe I would hope you would have more control, being the wonderful Jedi, but I guess not. That's why we're in this situation that we're in. So, and then some a little cool thing. So now it's game on for the cult. Since Kelnaka arrives and they manage to possess him, that was kind of cool. And they got a nice little battle scene with Kanaka trying his best to kill them, and of course Torba and Saul trying their best not to kill Kanaka. So I like that. Although then Anara shows up and breaks the controller of Kanaka, and somehow that kills all of them. That's kind of the wrong force power you want to use. That's kind of some bad feedback there. I don't know. And then they take Osha back because she's the only one left alive. So I mean that's fine. That's what you would do. Okay, no problem there. But then they all agree to lie to the council about what happened. They just back Inara's little scheme here so that Saul can have his Padawan and train Osha, which the council already said no to before. But now what? Oh, we'll take pity on you because she's the only survivor. So okay, I guess we can train her. Okay. So yeah, just a ton of selfishness from about just I think every single person in this episode except for Kanaka, who was just kind of going along with it at the end there. So I don't know. Am I too harsh on this one, or I think you're pretty much kind of in the same boat I am here.
Yeah, agreed. This is my least favorite part, right, of all the parts we've got going on here. I know we had to get through some of the reveal, some drama, all that kind of stuff. Kind of explain the catalyst for this big mystery that we've been tiptoeing around the last what 7 episodes, 6 episodes. Like I said, I would just have liked a lot longer time spent on building out some better character motivations. Everything felt compressed and done to fit the plot, right? Because they've shown us all these Jedi in pieces. One of them's in a bar that was kind of okay, but then you get Torben is been meditating in a force bubble for who knows how long, and Kanaka's hiding in the woods, forsaken Jedi robes and everything, but almost kind of gone back to Wookiee roots with all these really cool drawings, right? That they had a lot of mystery and really interest in, like, why are there all these drawings on the wall, and what's that mean, and all these little things, and they just blow right past it to make everything fit in this little box of, here's how it happened really quickly so we can move back on because we've got a lightsaber battle to start the next episode with, right?
Yeah, it's like they kind of showed you briefly that I guess they're trying to atone or come to grips with what happened, but yeah, you don't know that until after the fact. And then it's like there was no yeah, it would have been nice to spend some more time on it, or at least spend a little more time setting things up a little bit. But again, yeah, 8 episodes. You've got you know where it starts, where it ends, and you got to put stuff in the middle. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's just
I think that's the problem, right? To be fair, they oversold the reveal because they built up such a cool partiality to it, seeing it, maybe misrepresented the first time, and the clues aren't lining up, and you've got all these really cool detail, like I said, of all the what the Jedi are actually out there doing 10 years later. That I kind of felt let down by the rushed reveal of these guys. It's just because nobody behaved like we wanted them to.
yeah, because like for the first 6 episodes, I was sold. I was all in. I mean, yeah, there's the internet kerfuffle about I guess Ocean May or whatever, which whatever, just deal with it. But
Yeah, we moved
like
past that quick, right? I mean, we're
yeah,
back in the plot,
yeah,
and
like we had our wonderful battles and with the reveals and oh well, he's killed everybody. Oops, wow, you know, and then yeah, it's like okay, we got 2 episodes to go. Okay, so let's explain everything and fish everything. Like you got one right.
right.
Yeah, so, yeah. Speaking of the one that got right, we have our conclusion. So again, another lightsaber fight bar, scaled. I mean, that was incredible. Him and like Saul and Kamir going at it. Can't wait to try and see that come up in a game sometime soon. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to do some of that. Yeah, as we said before, like I love how they're getting more and more Hong Kong kung fu style with these. I mean, it's when you spend all the money, you get all the good stuff. So,
And they spent some money here, right?
oh yeah, this thing cost a lot. I think each episode was millions and millions. And then yeah, Saul finally comes clean, admits what happened, and Osha kills him for it. So, thus completing her path to becoming Kamir's acolyte. And there's her name drop of the series, I guess. And it's kind of cool that we do get to see a lightsaber being corrupted, because she's just her rage turned the blue crystal red. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. So this was an interesting point to me because I think, like you say, it's the first, maybe the first time. I think it's the only time so far in
Hmm.
live action that we've gotten to see a lightsaber go through the process they call I don't know if it's, I can't keep track of which books are legends and which ones aren't anymore, but basically this is where the bleeding of a lightsaber, right? This is
Hmm.
what the Sith used to turn their lightsabers red, and it involves, cracking the kyber crystal, which happens when May throws the lightsaber across, right? The crystal cracks. You see that, and then, like you say, the action of using the dark side to kill Saul corrupts it and bleeds the lightsaber, and you see the crystal actually bleed over, which I just thought was epic.
Hmm. Now, of course, that does explain why Anakin's saber stayed blue, but hey, you have to give it to your son later so he can kill you with. No, anyway, that's
He
fine.
he he, for, he
that's
forgot
that's fine.
he forgot to crack the crystal step.
Yeah, yeah, he missed the one step there, but and then we get some more cool Force stuff. Kimura wipes May's memory, like pretty quick, just like poof. Who are you?
Yeah,
So
Obi-Wan needs to take note of that one because that was
yeah,
some epic.
that was a little faster than the these aren't the droids you're looking for. It's just kind of like just poof. Oh, who are you? Oh, we're fine. Go away. That's fine. And then we get some more kind of like palace or political intrigue by Vernestra carving it all up by saying, "Oh, yeah, it was all Saul. He went nuts. Yeah, yeah, that was it." Which I'm thinking probably didn't do any good to her trying to stall the Senate investigation into the Jedi Order. I'm sure that probably brought that right to the top of their agenda. so, so much for that. But then, she wants May to help her remember and help find Kamir, and I guess that's where season 2 would go. And apparently, she goes off to tell Yoda that I guess the Sith are back. Maybe I don't know, or which I guess leads obviously later into what we learn about in the prequels. So yeah, so what do you think of the final here? Do they kind of sell it for you, or and I get some other theories here afterwards we can talk about. But
So despite my complaints, about the last episode, I really enjoyed this episode and the ending reveal, like we said, from Fernistra and all that. I'm not the biggest fan of politics in Star Wars,
would you
but
prefer like trade
no. That's what I mean. That's the
trade
stuff
deals?
that, yeah. I think I've probably made it clear during some of our recaps that I prefer my Star Wars like a police procedural, but you know, that's just my approach to it. This made it a great showing of the motivations of, trying to keep the Senate out of their affairs, right? I mean, the whole cover up, like you say, it probably backfired, but doing the protection of keeping the Jedi away from the political intrigue and stuff like that, and we kind of know how that ends. Like you say, eventually we get Palpatine and the Senate oversight, and the Jedi move from you know basically become generals and leaders in the war, and fully involved in the Republic's political mechanizations, to the point that they get played by the dark side. Spoilers for if you haven't seen the movies, but uh,
Then why are you watching the
why are
show?
you watching this show? But I say all that to say it's kind of interesting to see it from the earlier aspect. But yeah, I did enjoy it. Like I said, a lot of the cool little things we saw in it were well worth watching.
Yeah, and I guess when it's all said and done, the Jedi are like any other kind of group of people. When things come at you, you circle the wagons and you huddle up and you defend your own. So yeah, I mean she's trying to keep the Jedi being what they are and trying to deflect and get the Senate kind of out of the business. So I mean I can understand it. It does add something to it. So yeah, okay, I can see it. Although you keep building lie upon lie upon lie, and at some point, yeah, it's gonna bite you. And well, 100 years later, so there you go.
I keep forgetting this is only 100 years too. I keep trying to make it a lot further.
Yeah, I wish they'd have gone way back, like we talked about last time. They could have gone back a couple thousand, but okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
You're filling in more of the gaps now. You can still go back further if you wanted to, and if we, if the whole High Republic era is not destroyed now because of this this season.
Right.
So yeah, let's get into some of the theories here. So yeah, the one episode we see the creepy lurker dude on the planet watching Osha and Kamir go away, and I kind of thought, I wonder if that's Darth Plagueis, and of course, he's not in the credits as Darth Plagueis because he didn't have any lines or anything, but online afterwards they called that out as that's who it was. So okay, now lots of questions, obviously. So is Kamir his apprentice, which keeps with the rule of two for the Sith, your master and your apprentice. But then Kamir's looking for an apprentice, well, acolyte, same thing, apprentice, acolyte, same thing, of his own. So does that mean then, obviously, the rule of two, does that mean he wants to then kill Plagueis and become a master? Because you can't have, you know, a master with a student. That doesn't work. However, Palpatine says he's the one to kill Plagueis, at least so he says anyway. And although Count Dooku kind of broke the rule of two several times, so it's not so much a hard and fast rule. Maybe it's a guideline. I don't know. you know, or if you get caught, then you pay the price. I don't know. But it's 100 years or so to the prequels, so maybe Plagueis cycles through a bunch of apprentices before Palpatine, and these are two of them, or something else happens to them, or I don't know.
Yeah, so there's a couple. I'm kind of split on this one. I'm gonna stake on the rule of two for just a second here. They definitely focus a lot in this show on duality, right? I mean, that's not something that that's something that almost beats you over the head with when you've got two people and or one person and two people, right? I mean that's the whole point of this show for a lot of it. But you can kind of look at some of the other stuff like uh, Kamir's ship, right? It only fits two people, one on each side. Kamir's lightsaber is actually two blades, right? Because at one point he pulls out the short blade from the bottom and has like
Hmm.
a the shorter fighting sword style, almost Ahsoka style, with his two blades. So there's a lot of duality fit in with this. But and I'll counter that with to your point, because I kind of thought about this as you were talking your way through it. The Sith are really bad about not following that rule. Um, and so the fact that he doesn't use the term apprentice at any point with her, right? He's not looking for an apprentice. He's looking for an acolyte. It leads me a lot to thinking about, you kind of mentioned Dooku, but the other one that was really bad about it was Vader, because Vader had the entire group of Inquisitors,
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
and I've kind of felt like maybe is he Kamara's always already kind of had some off the wall thoughts, right? The way he approaches things is not necessarily our idea of Sith, and so maybe this was more him looking for a you know partner slash acolyte slash inquisitor force or something different than the true master apprentice rule of two thing. So again, more stuff they could dive into if they have another season.
Yeah, because that's where it's heading. I mean, for the second season, they've got all these unanswered questions they have to answer, and with especially with Osha and May being one consciousness into two bodies, I mean, that's certainly, if you think about it, more of like this force dyad than probably we've ever seen before, even over Ray and Ben, because they're one person, so basically the same person split. So it's like that's even more tight knit than Ray and Ben were. So I'm guessing it's probably going to figure into next season for how to track them down, because Osha's already been able to see May from far away, and vice versa. So if we get a second season, that's probably going to play a lot into it.
Yeah, and I'll dive into one of my last theories here, and that's the Plagueis, right? We talked a little bit about him and where he fit in this because they definitely went out of their way to show him. And my theory is that the witches found him, right? And we're looking for a child, right? Because the covenant, you got this covenant of witches with no kids, and was the dyad of May and Osha his first attempt to create life. We know we get the stories of Plagueis from Palpatine stories and things like that. So maybe they were the first attempt, and the process he later perfected and used to create Anakin. Because we really don't know when Palpatine killed him, right? We get the story of the apprentice killing the master, which we assume being Palpatine killing Plagueis. But was that after he created Anakin, or they created Anakin, right? So maybe Plagueis only died a few years before we see Episode One.
Yeah, because there's still a lot of unanswered questions even about Palpatine. There might be in the books. I haven't read the books
Same.
of the new whatever you're calling it now, whatever, or the whatever, not legends. So yeah, because obviously if Palpatine is force sensitive, he missed being recruited by the Jedi and somehow got found by Plagueis and trained at some point, but before he became senator, I'm guessing, because it probably takes a while to be trained, and he was kind of already old. I don't know. So yeah, there's a lot of gaps to be filled in, which is why we have these shows to fill these gaps. So it's fun. You get to see how the pieces fit together, and yeah, there's definitely lots of questions here that they could really dive into if they had a second season, or if they want to scrap this and do something else in the High Republic era. I guess this. storyline's probably dead then, but you could go back even further and do more Sith stuff, or you can still take Plagueis and take him back even further. I don't know, whatever. I mean, so if you still want to go with that, but
Yeah, they could do the origin story of story of Plagueis and let some of this die down, the negativity, and then you could come back to it later. Once everybody's really into Plagueis, who knows?
yeah, or even like go way back and do like the Sith War, where there was a whole bunch of Sith and a whole bunch of Jedi, and then they kill all the Sith, and now there's only two at a time running around. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, whatever. That's neither here nor there. That's just wishful thinking.
Well, they've got to do something next. I mean, obviously, they're not going to walk away from the cash cow that's Star Wars, so we'll get something.
Yeah, we got a couple things coming up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, hopefully there's season two, because I mean, hopefully by now they figured out what worked and what didn't. They've heard the fan reaction. These things take a while to write, produce, and create. So if they haven't started yet, then they could use this as a time to perfect it. But again, we'll find out.
Yep.
Anything else
No, I think
acolyte to talk about?
I think we've covered it. Overall, it gets I'd probably give it a B plus. It had a lot of stuff that we probably picked on a couple episodes, but between the fight scenes and I think the overall arching interesting things they brought up in the story, it gets pretty good marks.
Yeah, 7 out of 8.
Yeah.
So not bad odds there. So pretty good. All right, so yeah, I don't know what our next show besides Farscape will be, but obviously you'll know it when it's in the show notes. So, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.